How many remember Patrick Ewing sneakers? In the 90s, Patrick Ewing was the face of the New York Knicks for over a decade. A Hall of Famer, an Olympic gold medalist, a true giant of the game. But what many don't know is Patrick Ewing was also a sneaker pioneer. Long before signature kicks were everywhere, he became one of the first NBA players to start his own shoe brand. And for a moment, it was global. New York, being one of the hugest markets in the world, obviously brought a large fan base. But the Ewing sneaker also managed to gain worldwide love and affection while they were at it. Pat was one of the first ever athletes to show the world that you didn't have to sell your soul to one of the big three sneaker brands. You could launch your own thing and be successful. In the early 90s, the Ewings were running neck and neck with the sneaker golden boy, Michael Jordan, who was backed by a powerhouse. All the while, Pat held his own, on his own. But at some point, things changed. Ewings faded into the vintage bins as a relic of a bygone time. Ever wonder why though? How did a revolutionary idea, backed by one of the biggest names in the NBA, fail to stick it out for the long run the way other signature sneaker brands did? Well, let's find out. I'm Nate the Great from TakeFlight214.com, and this is the legacy of Patrick Ewing sneakers, a classic that refused to die. But before we get started, as always, please take a second to stop and smash that like button for us. It helps us out as a channel, and the best thing is, it's totally free for you. Another way to help us out is by stopping by our website, where we offer hundreds of pieces that any fan of the channel is sure to love. So if you actually do want to spend money to help us out, which I'm not going to stop you, this will be by far the best way to do so. But with that being said, let's dive into the story. Patrick Ewing dominated at Georgetown, winning a national championship and becoming a household name by the time he entered the NBA draft in 1985 as the #1 overall pick by the New York Knicks. Mind you, throughout his 4 years playing for the Hoyas, he hooped in Nikes. Not to mention his coach, John Thompson, had serious pull in Beaverton, so many thought that Pat was a lock to sign with Nike as a rookie in the NBA. It was a monumental moment in the first ever NBA lottery when Ewing was selected by the biggest sports market in the nation, giving the Knicks fans a spark of hope for the first time in years. For the first few years, Pat played in Adidas, who signed him for $750,000. Previously, his manager was also in talks with Nike trying to get them to match the offer, but at the time, they were only paying Jordan $500,000, and ultimately, they didn't want to be the ones to have to tell Mike that they had signed someone else for more. But then, in the late 80s, Ewing began wearing unbranded all-white sneakers, teasing the idea that he would soon unveil his own signature shoe. The idea was to make fans wonder what was going on. It came from Ewing's super agent, David Falk, and the idea actually was golden. In 1989, Pat took a bold leap, founding Ewing Athletics, becoming the first NBA player to own his own sneaker company. It was a revolutionary move. While others were endorsing sneakers, Ewing owned his brand. The company was operated through a licensing deal with Next Sports, who handled manufacturing and all the distribution. It was a pretty good call. When Ewing Athletics launched in 1989, it made a giant argument against the prevailing idea that big men didn't sell shoes. The model called the Rebound was first launched in 1989, but the floodgates really opened the following year when the company dropped the 33 high. At the time, basketball shoe manufacturers operated off of a philosophy where the more athletic players got the sleek, lighter shoes, and power players got bulkier, chunky shoes. The Ewings leaned into this design philosophy, but what they came up with wound up being timeless. The early 90s were huge for Ewing Athletics. Kids were rocking them in schoolyards, rappers wore them in videos, ballers chose them for street cred. Ewing Athletics were releasing multiple silhouettes, all loud, all basketball inspired, and all dripping with attitude. The brand did over $100 million in sales at its peak. And with Ewing averaging double-doubles and making all-star appearances, the brand felt authentic. It wasn't just merch. It was an extension of the man himself. They weren't just performance shoes. They were streetwear before streetwear was a movement. Pat was even on the design team. There were a few key details that he wanted to make sure they included. One, to make sure that they fit correctly. And two, to make sure that they offered the support that he needed. Oh yeah, and three, that the colorways were eye-catching and still matching his uniform. Between 1990 and 1996, Ewing Athletic released 20 models. And the best part about it was they were relatively cheap when compared to other shoes on the market. Even back then, you could get a pair of Ewings back in the day for as cheap as $50. Soon, Foot Locker stores across the country began to carry them. After taking home the gold in the 1992 Summer Olympics, Ewing Athletics had demand and exposure all around the world. The Dream Team was so big that everyone got exposed to international basketball. And only two players on the team at that time had their own signature shoe, Ewing and Jordan. In the early 90s, Ewing was a close second to the Jordan brand in sneaker sales, a feat not easily accomplished. But it shows the impact of what he was doing back then. Although Jordan was the alpha dog in respect of sales and royalties, Pat proved profitable due to the unique structure of being the first hoop superstar to own his own bankable brand. Now okay, full disclosure, he didn't completely own the brand. I mean, he wasn't the sole owner. He actually owned about 20 to 25%, but still, that's more than any other athlete could say back then at that time. No longer built strictly for hardware, Falk and Patrick had produced a wide range of sneakers built for street ball and casual wear as well. The boom turned out to be both a blessing and a curse though. While the sales were great, the guys at Ewing Athletics weren't exactly prepared for the shoes to do quite this well. When you think about it, Jordan had one shoe a year in 4 colors tops. But by 1992, Pat had 10 to 15 models a year in 6 or 7 colorways. They went from having the 33 high to a whole company virtually overnight. And before long, things started to get out of hand. But heavy is the crown for the King of New York. Leading a championship caliber team in the rough and tumble 90s was backbreaking enough. But running a multi-million-dollar footwear enterprise in his off hours was super taxing. Everything began to change in the mid to late 90s. The sneaker game was shifting. Jordan returned from his first retirement in '95, and Nike also had Pippen and emerging stars like Penny Hardaway and Kobe Bryant. The market was crowded, and Ewing Athletics began to struggle to keep up. Adding insult to injury, after a dispute with shippers that were discontinuing more products than they should have, Ewing Athletics ultimately shut down in 1995. Yeah, terrible timing. Shortly after shutting down, Michael Jordan was not just back in the basketball world, but he was back on top of it, further opening the gap between him and any other competition. Ultimately, Nike ended up granting Jordan equity in the form of Jordan Brand, putting him on the same level that Ewing had reached years prior. By the early 2000s, Ewing Athletics had vanished from the shelves. No more releases, no marketing, just memories. But in the world of sneakers, nothing truly dies, especially if you were part of the culture. In the 2010s, nostalgia started to kick in hard. Vintage Ewing 33 highs began popping up on eBay. Collectors started hunting for pairs. The chunky silhouette had bounced back and they were now retro gold. In 2012, nearly 2 decades after originally launching, Ewing Athletics made a triumphant comeback, led by David Goldberg and Patrick Ewing himself. The return was a hit with the OG sneakerheads, and the new generation discovered the iconic style. The 33 high was released in classic knit colorways and new collabs with various brands. The retro boom, paired with 90s nostalgia, gave Ewing Athletics a new lease on life. This time, with smarter marketing, limited releases, and online drops that tapped into hype culture. Today, Ewing Athletics stands as a symbol of independence, cultural pride, and timeless style. Patrick Ewing wasn't just a Hall of Famer on the court, he was a trailblazer in the world of sneakers. While Ewing may have never had the same global sneaker empire success that Jordan did, he did carve out his own lane, and he stayed true to it. And that's why his sneakers deserve a place in cultural history, at least in my opinion. But what do you think? Were you a fan of Ewings back in the day? Would you still wear them now? Hit us up in the comment section and let us know. And if you made it all the way to the end and you enjoyed what you saw, we hope that you hit the like button. Liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos is the only way to get the YouTube algorithms to notice us so that we may continue to grow. I can't thank you guys enough. We just hit 30,000 subscribers. Hey! Next stop is 40K, and we need you guys' help to continue to keep moving. And if you want to be updated whenever we drop new episodes, then hit the subscribe button and then the notification bell. That way you'll be dinged when each new video is released. But with all that being said, I'm Nate the Great from TakeFlight214.com signing out. Until next time. Peace.